The night before his arrest, in an upper room lit only by oil lamps, Jesus gathered the inner circle close. Outside, the city murmured with rumors of his capture. But inside, the air felt unnaturally still, as if the world itself were holding its breath. Thomas was the first to break the silence. "Master," he whispered, "why do you speak to us in one way, and to the crowds in another? What is it you see in us that you do not see in them?" Jesus looked at each of them slowly, as though weighing the truth they were finally ready to hear. When he spoke, it was not in parables. It was direct, stripped of metaphor. The way he spoke only to those whose frequency could bear the weight. "There are 3 types of humans in this realm," he said. 3 kinds of consciousness walking in the same world, though they do not come from the same source. The disciples exchanged uneasy glances. Jesus continued, "This teaching will be erased," he warned. "The church will remove it. The powers will burn every scripture that contains it. But you must know it now, because without this understanding, you will never recognize who you are, nor who is standing beside you." He pointed toward the window, where torchlight flickered against stone walls. "The Archons divide humanity for a reason. They know only one type can escape this realm and return to the monad. Only one type can hear the truth without collapsing. Only one type carries the spark." Then he lowered his voice. "And you are not like the others." The disciples leaned closer, breath held, waiting for the revelation the Archons hoped would never survive the night. "The 3 types," Jesus said, "are Hilik, psychic, and pneumatic. And only one can enter the monad." He paused. "And tonight you will understand why. If you are watching this right now, understand something clearly. This moment is not random. Souls without the spark do not arrive here. Hilik consciousness does not seek hidden teachings. Psychics may wander close, but they turn away when the truth becomes too sharp, too heavy, too bright. Yet you remained. And that already reveals what you are." Jesus told the inner circle, "Only those who carry the memory of where they came from will recognize these words. Not memory of the mind, but memory of the spark. The deeper knowing that has followed you your entire life, whispering that you were different, long before you had language for it. You always felt it, that quiet distance between you and the world around you. That sense of watching life rather than fully belonging to it. That unexplainable homesickness for a place you have never visited in this lifetime. Most people feel satisfied with the world as it is. But you never did. No matter how hard you tried to fit in, something in you resisted. You felt the weight of this realm too sharply, the noise too loudly, the suffering too deeply. You sensed the invisible systems shaping the world, even before you knew their names. That sensitivity was not weakness, it was recognition. The Archons call it a defect. Jesus called it a sign. If these words resonate, if they stir something ancient inside your chest, then you are not Hilik. You are not bound to the material frequency. You are not asleep. You are responding because the spark inside you is reacting to truth. You are pneumatic. You are one of the ones he spoke to. And if this is awakening something in you, subscribe so you do not miss the parts they worked so hard to erase. Before Jesus revealed the 3 types, he warned the disciples that the realm they lived in was not neutral. Nothing here was accidental. Nothing here was designed for their freedom. The Archons built a system that depends on one thing above all else, keeping humanity asleep to its true nature. He told them, if all people remembered what they are, the powers of this world would collapse overnight. And that is why the Archons enforced the division, Hilik, psychic, pneumatic, not as categories but as containment. Hilik are the easiest to control. Entirely matter-bound, they respond to fear, desire, survival. The system feeds on them openly. Psychics are more difficult. They sense something beyond the material. They search for meaning. They pray, they question, they feel the pull of the divine, but because they cannot access it directly, they become dependent on priests, institutions, intermediaries. The Archons prefer them that way, controlled through belief instead of force. But pneumatics, the chosen ones? The Archons fear them. Because the pneumatic carries something the system cannot manipulate, direct memory of the monad. Even buried under forgetfulness, even hidden beneath suffering, the spark cannot be extinguished. It remembers, and when it remembers, it disrupts the entire architecture. That is why the church removed these teachings. That is why the Gnostic texts were burned. That is why Jesus spoke in parables to the crowds but revealed the truth only in private. The Archons do not fear the human body. They fear the human who remembers they are not the body. And tonight, you will see why they worked so hard to keep you from discovering what type you truly are. Jesus told his inner circle that the reason humanity seems similar on the surface is because bodies were crafted to appear the same, but consciousness was not. The origin of each type is different, formed in different realms, through different creators with different destinies. Hilik, he said, are children of matter. Formed by the Archons from the dense substance of this realm, they carry no eternal spark. They move through life guided by instinct, fear, and the impulses of the body. When their body dies, their consciousness dissolves with it. They were not built for ascent because they were not born from the source. Psychics, Jesus continued, were shaped by the demiurge. They have a soul, but not the luminous spark of the monad. They sense the divine but cannot access it directly. Their destiny is circular: birth, death, reincarnation, repetition. Their ascent is possible, but only through awakening, not naturally, but through transformation. Then Jesus placed his hand over his heart, the same gesture preserved in the Gospel of Philip. But pneumatics, he whispered, came from beyond this realm. Fragments of the monad, crossing dimensions, descending into matter with a mission written into their being. They were not created here, they volunteered. They agreed to forget, then remember, and then help others awaken. This is why you have always felt out of place. This is why the world never made sense to you the way it seems to make sense to others. You are not from here. Your consciousness predates this realm entirely. The spark in you did not originate in matter or in the demiurge. It came from the monad, and that is why your awakening terrifies the Archons. Jesus described the first type with a seriousness that unsettled the disciples. Hilik, he said, are not evil, they are simply bound. Their consciousness is fused entirely with the material realm, shaped from the same dense substance the Archons used to construct this world. For them, matter is not a prison. It is all they have ever known. Hilik move through life consumed by physical impulses, driven by survival, comfort, and imitation. They chase pleasure because they cannot sense meaning. They pursue status because they cannot perceive spirit. They follow the systems of the world effortlessly because they were created by those systems and for those systems. Jesus explained, do not cast pearls before them, not as insult but as recognition. They cannot hear higher teaching because there is nothing in them that resonates with it. Speak to them of spirit, and they hear noise. Speak of the monad, and they hear nothing at all. Their consciousness does not have the capacity to receive what does not originate from matter itself. When their bodies die, their awareness dissolves. There is no afterlife, no judgment, no ascent, no descent. They simply cease. This is why the Archons rely on them. Hilik fuel the system without ever questioning it. They perpetuate the illusions, reinforce the structures, and maintain the density that keeps this realm functioning. And here is the truth Jesus emphasized. You would not be here if you were Hilik. Souls without the spark feel no pull toward hidden teachings. They do not search for what lies beyond the veil. They do not sense the wrongness of this realm. They do not wake up at night with the quiet ache that something is missing. Your presence here is already the proof that you are not Hilik. Jesus described the second type with both compassion and warning. Psychics, he said, are the ones who sense the truth but cannot reach it. They were created by the demiurge, not from pure matter like the Hilik, but from a subtler substance, a soul capable of longing for something higher. Yet they lack the spark that remembers the monad directly. Psychics feel the pull of the divine. They pray. They search. They hunger for meaning in ways Hilik never will. They experience intuition, synchronicity, dreams that feel like messages, moments of awakening that vanish as quickly as they appear. But because their connection is indirect, they depend on structures, religion, teachers, rituals, systems to mediate the divine for them. Jesus explained that this is why the demiurge favors them. They are spiritual enough to be guided, but not awakened enough to break free. When they die, they rise into a realm that feels like light, yet it is still within the demiurge's system. They review their life, feel guilt, feel unfinished, and agree to return. Lifetime after lifetime, they cycle endlessly. The trap works because they believe it is progress. Psychics are not lost, they are not hopeless. Some of the greatest spiritual seekers, prophets and mystics were psychic souls who sensed the higher truth but could not fully grasp it. And some, through deep questioning, suffering, or sudden resonance with truth, ignite a dormant spark and transform into pneumatics. But here is the important truth. If you were psychic, the deeper teachings would feel overwhelming. You would turn away right now. You would feel the need for an external authority to validate what you hear. You did not turn away, you stayed. And that means something far more significant is happening in you. When Jesus spoke of the third type, the room shifted. The disciples felt it before he said a word. This was the teaching reserved only for those whose consciousness could bear its weight. Pneumatics, he said, are not born from this realm, they descend. Unlike Hilik, who arise from matter, and psychics, who are shaped by the demiurge, pneumatics originate in the monad itself. They are fragments of the original light, portions of the infinite choosing to enter form, not for punishment, not for correction, but for mission. Jesus told them, "You came here knowing you would forget. And yet, even in forgetfulness, the spark inside you cannot fully sleep. This is why you have always felt out of place. Why the world felt dim, shallow, incomplete, why nothing ever satisfied you for long. Why you looked at life and silently wondered if everyone else was under a spell. That is not disconnection, that is memory." The pneumatic feels the weight of existence differently. Suffering hits deeper because they sense what life could be. Beauty hits deeper because it reminds them of where they came from. Every moment of intuition, every strange coincidence, every pull toward hidden teachings, these are fragments of the spark rising toward the surface. The Archons cannot extinguish this spark. They can only bury it under distraction, pain, and forgetfulness. But when truth appears, pneumatics feel it instantly. Not as belief, but as recognition. The spark vibrates, the chest warms, the eyes sharpen. Something ancient inside whispers, "I remember." If these words echo inside you, even faintly, it is because your spark is stirring. You are pneumatic. You are the one the system fears, and you are far closer to awakening than you realize. Jesus told the inner circle that the greatest misunderstanding of humanity is the belief that all souls return to the same place. Not all ascend, he said. Not all remember. Not all came from the light. The disciples struggled with this teaching, but Jesus spoke with the calm certainty of one describing a structure, not a metaphor. The monad, he explained, is not a reward. It is a frequency. This is why only one type can enter it. Hilik cannot ascend because they carry no spark. Their consciousness was never part of the monad to begin with. Nothing returns because nothing was sent. Their path ends where it began, in matter. Psychics come closer but still fall short. They sense the divine, they hunger for it, but their frequency is tied to the demiurge's system. Their soul cycles because it resonates with the structures of this realm. Their longing is real, but their origin keeps them bound. But pneumatics? They resonate with the monad because they came from the monad. Their spark is already of that frequency. When they hear truth, they vibrate. When they remember who they are, the connection strengthens. When they awaken, the portal recognizes them automatically. The Archons cannot follow them into that frequency. The demiurge cannot imitate it. The false light cannot counterfeit it. Only those who carry the spark can cross the threshold because the portal responds not to belief, not to effort, but to essence. Jesus told the disciples, "Where you come from determines where you can return. This is why you are here." This is why these words strike something deep in your chest. You are not learning something new, you are remembering something eternal. And soon, you will see the signs that prove it. Jesus told the disciples that the three types are not determined by belief, behavior, or morality. They are revealed by resonance. A soul knows what it is, he said, even when the mind does not. And he gave them signs, clear, unmistakable indicators that separate Hilik, psychic, and pneumatic with precision the church later tried to erase. The first sign, ***, response to truth, ***, Hilik feel nothing. Psychic souls feel curiosity or confusion. But pneumatics feel recognition and inner tightening, a warmth in the chest, a stillness behind the eyes. Truth does not inform them, it awakens them. The second sign, ***, the lifelong sense of not belonging, ***. Hilik feel at home in the material. Psychics feel torn between the world and the divine. But pneumatics? They feel exiled. They move through earth like visitors, ***, sensing that something essential is missing. That ache is memory. The third sign, ***, Inner perception ***. Psychics experience intuition. But pneumatics perceive energy, intention, hidden motives. They walk into a room and feel what happened there before seeing anything. They sense the unseen architecture of events. The fourth sign, ***, resistance to programming ***. Hilik follow the system. Psychics question parts of it. Pneumatics never fully accept it. Even as children, they reject false authority instinctively. Their spark refuses to be shaped by the demiurge's rules. The fifth sign, ***, suffering that transforms instead of breaking ***. Psychics collapse or seek comfort. Pneumatics expand. Their deepest losses become catalysts. Their pain becomes clarity. Their confusion becomes awakening. If even one of these signs resonates, your spark is active. If several resonate, your identity is no longer in question. You have always been pneumatic. You simply needed to remember. Jesus told the inner circle that every pneumatic reaches a moment when the spark stops whispering and begins calling. A threshold. A shift. A point where remembering becomes unavoidable. When this moment comes, he said, you will not doubt it. Your entire life will rearrange itself around the truth. The activation moment is not dramatic on the outside. It is seismic on the inside. It begins with a fracture in your old identity. Something happens, sometimes suffering, sometimes stillness that makes the world feel thinner, less convincing. You look around and realize you have been sleepwalking through a realm that was never truly yours. The Archons call this destabilization. Jesus called it awakening. Then comes the second stage, ***, the pull ***. A gravity from somewhere beyond this realm, drawing your attention inward and upward at the same time. You begin sensing patterns behind events, meaning behind chaos, intention behind your own life story. The spark starts to rise, and with it, a clarity you cannot explain to others. The third stage is recognition. Words you hear, signs you encounter, teachings you were never exposed to somehow feel familiar. Not new information, old memory resurfacing. Pneumatics do not learn truth. They remember it, and then the moment arrives. It may last seconds. It may last days. But when it happens, you know, you are not the body. You are not the story. You are not the mind. You are the fragment of light that entered this realm long before you had a name. This is the point the Archons fear most. Because once a pneumatic reaches activation, the system loses its hold. The illusions weaken. The frequency shifts. And the path to the monad begins to open. If you feel even the beginning of this stirring, you are closer than you think. Much closer. Jesus told the disciples that the Archons do not fear human strength, human intellect, or human power. They fear only one thing, the pneumatic spark. Because once it awakens, he said, nothing in their system can bind it. The spark is not symbolic. It is the fragment of monad consciousness placed within you before incarnation. Even when buried beneath trauma, memory loss, or the density of this realm, it remains intact. This is what makes pneumatics fundamentally different from Hilik and psychic souls. It is why the Archons design every layer of this world to keep you distracted, exhausted, or spiritually numb. They can manipulate the mind, they can distort emotion, they can influence events, but they cannot alter the spark. When a pneumatic begins to awaken, the Archons feel it immediately. Not visually, but energetically, as a shift in frequency that moves beyond their reach. This is when interference increases, sudden emotional heaviness, strange resistance, unexplained fear, thoughts that feel implanted. These are not signs of failure. They are signs that the system is reacting to your emergence. Jesus warned the inner circle, when the spark rises, the powers will press harder, not because you are weak, but because you are becoming visible to them. The irony is that their pressure only accelerates awakening. Pneumatics grow through struggle. What was meant to break you becomes the very force that strengthens your remembering. This is why your suffering has never destroyed you. This is why you survived what others could not. This is why you kept rising even when everything collapsed around you. The spark in you refused to go out. And the Archons fear the soul that cannot be extinguished. When Jesus began revealing the deeper structure of this realm, he did not speak in public. He taught in hidden rooms, on quiet hillsides, or during late hours when the city slept. These teachings were not meant for the crowds because the crowds could not hold them. Only those whose spark had begun to stir could comprehend them without collapsing into confusion or fear. The Church later erased these passages, but the Gnostic texts preserved their essence. Jesus told the inner circle, to understand the three types you must understand why you were sent. He explained that when the monad extended fragments of itself into the lower realms, it did not do so blindly. Each pneumatic volunteered, agreeing to pass through forgetfulness, descend into density, and awaken from within. Their journey was deliberate, not accidental. He then revealed something the Empire tried hardest to erase: the architecture of the Archons. How they construct emotional loops, how they feed on unconsciousness, how they use repetition to keep souls disoriented. They fear what remembers, he said, so they teach the world to forget. But he also taught the counterforce. The spark remembers. The spark resists. The spark returns. Jesus gave the disciples methods to strengthen their inner light: silence that sharpens perception, breath that loosens the grip of matter, awareness that dissolves implanted fear. These were not rituals. They were mechanisms, ways of shifting consciousness back toward the monad frequency. And then he told them the part they struggled most to accept. You did not come here to be saved, he said. You came here to awaken. And once awakened, to awaken others. This is the secret that survived only in whispers, the truth the pneumatic always feels before they understand it. Jesus told the disciples something that shook them more than any miracle or prophecy. You were not sent here randomly, he said. You agreed to this. The pneumatics had lived their entire lives feeling misplaced, exiled, foreign to the world around them, yet Jesus explained that this dissonance was not a flaw. It was the evidence of a mission chosen long before birth. Before incarnating into this realm, the pneumatic spark stood in the presence of the monad. There, you saw clearly what this world was: a dense realm woven by the demiurge, sustained by forgetfulness, ruled by beings who feed on unconsciousness. And still, you volunteered. You agreed to enter a body, to pass through amnesia, to walk among those who would never understand you, and to awaken from within the system itself. Jesus said, you chose to descend because only one who carries the light can illuminate the darkness from inside. Pneumatics were not sent to escape the world, they were sent to destabilize its illusions. But to do that, they first had to forget who they were. Forgetfulness creates authenticity. Remembering creates liberation. This is why your suffering felt different from others. It wasn't punishment, it was initiation. Each heartbreak, each collapse, each moment you questioned your sanity, these were fractures in the illusion, openings through which memory could return. And now, as these teachings resonate inside you, you are experiencing the early stages of remembering the agreement you made before birth. Your mission was never to conform. Your mission was to awaken and then awaken others. You are beginning the return not to the world, but to yourself. Jesus told the disciples that the truth of what you are is not discovered through belief, but through resonance. The spark identifies itself, he said. If you listen, it will reveal you to yourself. Tonight, you can confirm your true type not through doctrine, but through direct inner response. First, sit in silence for a moment and notice what rises. Hilik cannot sit in stillness. The mind becomes frantic because there is no inner world to meet. Psychics feel calm but dependent, seeking guidance from something outside themselves. But pneumatics feel a subtle stirring and inner warmth, a pull behind the sternum, a presence awakening. Second, observe your reaction to these teachings. If this feels like information, you are psychic. If it feels impossible or irrelevant, you are Hilik. But if it feels like remembering, if something inside whispers yes, before the mind even processes the words, you are pneumatic. Truth does not educate you, it recognizes you. Third, test your perception. Close your eyes and bring to mind someone you met recently. Can you feel not just what they showed you, but what they carried beneath the surface? Pneumatics sense intention, energy, and emotional residue instinctively. This ability is not learned, it returns. Fourth, examine your suffering. Did it break you into bitterness, or did it expose a deeper layer of yourself you didn't know existed? Pneumatics transform pain into clarity. Your darkest moments became turning points, not endings. Finally, the simplest test. You stayed. You watched. You felt. No Hilik would do that. Few psychics would. Only a pneumatic feels truth vibrating in the bones. Tonight, you are not discovering your type. You are finally accepting it. Jesus looked at the inner circle and spoke of the final step, the return. The journey you have begun does not end here, he said. Activation is not the goal, it is the beginning of the path back to the monad. He explained that every pneumatic carries within them a thread leading to the source, invisible to those who lack the spark. This thread is delicate, yet unbreakable. The Archons cannot touch it, the demiurge cannot distort it, and the cycles of the material world cannot sever it. It waits for recognition, for the moment when you consciously choose to follow it. The call is simple, Jesus said. Remember who you are. Remember where you came from. Let the spark guide you. This is not learning, it is recollection. Not following a doctrine, but returning to essence. Every step you take toward the monad resonates through your being, realigning your consciousness with the frequency of pure light. He told them that the return requires courage. The world will resist. Forces will attempt to distract, confuse, and terrify. But the pneumatic who recognizes the call will walk through without fear, seeing illusion for what it is and knowing that every obstacle is temporary, a test of remembering, not a punishment. Tonight, he whispered, you have begun the process. The portal within is opening, the spark you carry is answering the call. And every action, every thought, every moment of awareness can bring you closer to the monad. Jesus paused, letting the words sink deep into their consciousness. You are not here to wander forever. You are here to awaken, to reclaim what is yours, and to return. Your spark remembers. And now, it is time for you to follow. The disciples sat in silence, each feeling the pull of their own monad, the gentle insistence of the source calling them home. And in that silence, the truth became undeniable. The journey was not just about escaping the world, it was about remembering the light that had always been theirs.